Good morning, and thank you for joining us today for AI in Action, the Academy Trust Copilot story. I'm Steph Thompson, Head of Delivery here at Marra, and I'll be your host for this session where we'll explore how Microsoft Copilot Studio is helping transform the way Academy Trusts operate. It's brilliant to see so many of you on here, and thank you so much for attending. Before we dive into the webinar, I just want to do a quick bit of housekeeping. This session will run for about 60 minutes. We'll be sharing the recording afterwards, so please keep an eye on your inbox. Okay, let's get started. So over the next hour or so, you'll hear directly from the teams at Mercian Trust and Marra, who've been working together to bring Microsoft Copilot Studio into real-world use, which was ultimately to streamline support, improve access to knowledge, and empower teams across the trust. We'll start with a quick walkthrough of the agenda, just to set the scene for you, and you can know exactly what to expect during this webinar. Firstly, we'll dive into the heart of today's session, the Mercian Trust journey, told directly by Dave, Director of Digital Development at Mercian Trust. You'll learn how they've adopted Power Platform and embedded Copilot and AI into their organisation to drive meaningful change. Next up will be a technical walkthrough led by our senior developer, Michael, who'll show you how we devised the solution. We'll then move into a discussion with Dave and Daniel from Mercian Trust, where we'll explore lessons learned and the challenges overcome and the importance of user experience in driving adoption. Finally, we'll wrap up with a few thoughts from Michael on what's next for AI adoption and readiness. So whether you're just starting your AI journey or looking to scale, we hope today's session gives you a practical insight and inspiration to get started. But that's enough from me. Let's get started. I'll now hand over to Dave to kick things off. Over to you, Dave.
Thanks, Steph. Yeah, good morning. I'm Dave Wright, and I'm the Director of Digital Development at the Mercian Trust. We are a family of schools rooted in the Black Country, and we're united by a simple promise of increasing opportunities and improving outcomes. We really look to help every young person live life to the full in pursuit of what is good, right, and true, which is one of our trust mottos. So how did we become to be the Mercian Trust? Our name Mercian is quite deliberate. It reaches back to the heart of England's learning heritage and signals our commitment to our local communities. The Trust was formed in 2018 with 5 schools in Warsaw. In 2019, we opened the Ladder School, an alternative provision on the St Matthew's Education Campus. And in 2022, we welcomed the 3 Q3 academies in Sandwell. Further to that, in 2025, 3 further schools have joined us, being a special school, a primary school, and another alternative provision. In addition to this, we've also opened a digital skills hub that is supporting both our school and our local communities with digital literacy and workforce-ready skills. The growth we've had isn't just about having more schools, it's about capacity and capability. Our internal journey maps a shift from a really small central team to a high capacity trust that's got over 12 schools and 10,000 students. Along the way, we've seen leadership changes, new federations, and a deliberate build out of professional services and a digital transformation to sustain school improvement at scale. So why have we embraced AI? Against the backdrop, we asked, how do we return time to our colleagues and raise the quality of decisions without adding to our workload? We've had a business case for Microsoft 365 Copilot, which focused on 3 things: productivity and well-being, understanding how routine work could be automated so people can focus on the students and strategy, data-informed leadership, which brought about faster analysis of attainment, attendance, safeguarding, and put into context where appropriate with privacy intact, and one secure platform, reducing that shadow IT risk by using AI inside our Microsoft tenancy, understanding our technical readiness and data protection. We really proposed a staged adoption, beginning with leaders, which saw us start with a really small pilot around 20 Copilot license. And this was underpinned through our Big Move 3, which really had looked through a lens of how we could support our leaders experiencing time saving and efficiencies through automation. Through all of this, we've partnered with Microsoft partners, and they've really supported us through accelerating our understanding of how AI can work and support us through what we do within education. So building on the success of our Microsoft 365 Copilot license, we laid the groundwork for Copilot agents through Copilot Studio and really thought about how we could introduce targeted automations for repeatable processes across our central teams. This approach has really enabled AI to progress from an assistant to a dependable workflow co-worker, which is integrated with governance. Alongside this, we embedded a process of user acceptance testing and a structured launch process, ensuring that we had feedback and real-world insights from our users, allowing us to have continued growth and development. By establishing feedback loops through Power Apps, we've also been able to create a platform where users can actively contribute ideas and suggestions, which enriches our shared library of source knowledge, fosters ongoing improvement across the trust to meet the needs of all of our people. So what impact have we seen? By September 2025, we deployed 150 Microsoft Copilot licenses. We've delivered promptathons, app webinars, and use case sessions, and invested around £20,000 of Microsoft sponsored training. In a 4-week window, we've recorded over 9,000 Copilot actions, which has included over 5,000 chat prompts and over 1,000 in-app actions, which then translates into about 500 Copilot assisted hours. Practically, that translates to faster meeting preparations, clearer communication, quicker document drafting, and better information retrieval across our Teams, Word, Outlook, and OneNote. For central services staff, associate staff, and our teachers, our Copilot agents has supported the delivery of high quality context-aware responses instantly. No wait times where queries have been asked around policy interrogation. It's included integrated escalation to a human expert wherever needed, ensuring that there's been a speed without sacrificing accuracy or accountability, allowing us highly skilled central team members to be able to do the role that they're employed to do. Thinking about what's next for us, this is just the start. We're curating a trust prompt library, baselining KPIs on usage and time saved, and running refresher clinics and moving into targeted Copilot Studio pilots, while keeping Copilot as business as usual with regular agenda slots so adoption keeps pace with school priorities. What have we learned so far? We've really thought about starting with the purpose and the people, not the features. We wanted to make sure that we grounded our AI program as an improvement goal, building the guardrails first and investing in the adoption as a continuous capability. If we can help shortcut any of that learning for you, we're really happy to share our playbooks and any of the documentation with you to support ourselves. And we're also happy to learn from others from what you've done in your journeys. I would like to introduce Michael next, who's been one of our key partners in allowing us to develop on this journey.
Awesome, thank you, Dave. So I'm Michael, a senior developer here at Marra. What I want to do is I want to discuss AI and how it started back in 2022. So if we go back to 2022 and think about when AI first became widely available, we had ChatGPT. OpenAI released its first model, which was GPT-3, to the general public, and it exploded in popularity overnight. In fact, in 2025, ChatGPT is the most widely used AI in right now. General purpose AI is fantastic. It's great for brainstorming ideas. It's great for drafting text, modifying messages, and it's really good for learning new concepts. But the challenge with these generic open public models is that they're trained on very broad and public data. They don't have any understanding of your company's context. And in a world where data sensitivity and security is so important, why would you want to risk that information leaving your domain? We all know that once that information does leave your domain, it leaves your control as well. We can't always guarantee where that data will end up. On top of that, general AI can't always finish that job for you as well. So where you might get that text back, that knowledge back, you have to then go away and rebuild those files as well, formatting those reports and stitching together those outputs. And that's where 365 Copilot comes in. So instead of it living outside of your work, it gets embedded directly into the tools that you are using every day already. If we think about your Microsoft Word, your Excels, your Teams and Outlook, and much more, it'll be available in those tools that you use every day. So it works with your organizational data, your documents, your emails, your calendars, but it keeps everything safe and secure inside the tenancy. So no data ever escapes out to those public models, and you always get the Microsoft enterprise grade security built on top of that using the trust framework. What does that result in? High compliancy and privacy for your domain. Let's take it one step further into Copilot Studio. So this is where organizations can go beyond the out-of-box capabilities and create AI that's actually tailored for your business. If we look at custom Copilot agents, where you can design tailored agents specific to roles, departments, processes, it integrates AI into part of your workflow and everyday business use. You can integrate with the Microsoft 365 ecosystem or into Power Platform. So Copilot can tap into that ecosystem. It connects seamlessly with those applications such as Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, Power Apps, Power Pages, external websites that you may have developed, Facebook, WhatsApp, and much more. It's not limited to just Microsoft data. So you can connect external systems up using those APIs which you leverage. It can bring together multiple knowledge sources and data sources into a single conversational experience. Then we've got generative AI and orchestration. So Copilot Studio doesn't have to just be used for answering questions. It can orchestrate your process and automate them. It can execute workflows, and it can generate content on your behalf. It blends automation with intelligence. Finally, we've got security and governance. So, of course, I've already mentioned everything runs on the Microsoft Trust framework, but this instills confidence in your IT department and leaders that AI is safe and compliant and governed in your organization to use. So looking at the journey of what's happened with AI from 2022 to 2025, general AI in 2022 was the spark. 365 Copilot gets brought into the workplace, and now Copilot Studio is giving us the tools to customize and extend the usage of AI. AI is becoming a part of everyone's daily lives, and now organizations themselves are using it to aid how they truly operate. If we now talk about the issues of AI, so the biggest challenge in this area right now is simply navigating the space. It feels like every week something new is happening. There might be new tools, new models, new announcements, and for many people, it's a risk of either being left behind or actually being left in the noise. So Microsoft have made this really easy to navigate this space. Looking at the diagram that's on screen at the moment, we use Microsoft 365 Copilot for personal productivity and small team productivity. And we use Copilot Studio when other criteria needs to be met. So if I talk about Microsoft 365 Copilot first, this is built into your apps that you're using every day, as I've already stated. It allows the boosting of individual and team productivity. Think summaries, drafting, analysis, scheduling. It works with your organizational data. So think of all of them emails you have, those chats you've had in Teams, those documents that are hiding in all of them different SharePoint sites in that OneDrive location. It's secure by design, and it doesn't require any setup. It's likely installed on your machine right now if enabled by your IT provider. So Microsoft 365 Copilot is about giving personal productivity superpower inside the tools that you already use and know. Word, Excel, Teams, Outlook. It's about helping you and your colleagues work faster and smarter with data and documents you use every day. So where does Copilot agents differentiate? So these are more advanced cases. And if we talk about when you may need to customize agents to be enabled for roles or departments or customer scenarios, it allows the support of external users. So any customers through a website, any suppliers, partners, people like that. In the event that you need to span across multiple departments or organizations, a Copilot agent is better preferred. And it can help with complex workflows and orchestration. So think about those Power Automate flows that you need to run, those APIs that you want to interact with and you want to integrate with more business applications. Copilot agents also allows you to have very high granular management over the agent itself. Think about how the conversation should execute, the instructions that should occur in that agent, rules, governance, content, clarity. And once again, all extendable with connectors and custom logic. So Copilot agents, on the other hand, are about building copilots for your business itself. They're tailored, customizable, and they can take on much more complex cross-departmental or even customer-facing roles. They don't just generate text, and they can orchestrate process. They integrate with many systems, and they can run end-to-end workflows. So just to summarize all of that up, use 365 Copilot when you're looking at personal productivity, and move to Copilot Studio when you want those tailored experiences for larger audiences. What I'm going to move on to now is Mercian's use case for Copilot agents. So Mercian faced a challenge that's very, very common, and it's that they had an internal communication issue in a mid-sized organization with over 1,000 employees. Mercian identified that they had an issue and they knew that they needed to fix it. And they weren't too sure what technology, specifically within the Microsoft Power Platform and AI capabilities, could help, but they knew that there was something in that area that could help. So what was the problem itself? Mercian's teams were inundated with some routine questions that were coming through. These questions would come through in multiple different ways. So think Microsoft Teams, Outlook, face-to-face conversations, and telephone. The Mercian team were finding this quite hard to manage at times, and the information to respond to these queries was fragmented in the organization. Information could be in silos, it could be in teams of areas of help of people's heads, or it could be in documents that were hidden. And employees would sometimes result in getting delayed responses or inconsistent responses due to turnaround time. So Mercian knew that there was an issue which related to delayed responses, a lower amount of efficiency, unhappy with their process, demotivation of actually administrating it, and lack of data insights of understanding why these queries were occurring and which methods they were coming through. So Mercian knew about Power Platform in general, and they weren't fully aware how AI and Copilot agents could help streamline the process and unlock the insights from data that they already had. So this is when we started to think about a solution. So what Mercian wanted from the solution was to provide employees with fast and consistent answers, free up their admin teams so that they could work on additional higher value work, get rid of those silos and centralize that knowledge, offer visibility into the types of questions which were being asked and identify those that weren't. And this would help them to continuously improve their internal process. So we went back with Mercian, working together, and we proposed a solution. So after understanding those challenges, we proposed to implement a Copilot agent, which wouldn't be a simple FAQ bot, but it was instead designed to cover multiple departments and topics, and we would leverage generative AI where it was appropriate to do so. The goal was to increase the breadth of questions which could be asked to this agent, which the agent could then answer and identify those opportunities where AI would result in responses being provided to those users using the organization's overall knowledge sources. So how did that work? First, we prepared those knowledge sources along with Mercian, and we worked very closely together to ensure that all internal knowledge sources were AI ready. We standardized the formats, we structured the info, and we filled the gaps where we needed to. We then centralized everything. So the agent aggregated all of that info from different departments, breaking down those silos and getting rid of them, resulting in single sources of truth for that information. We then modified the agent to leverage generative AI where appropriate. So in the event that straightforward answers weren't available, we ensured that the agent could generate context-relevant responses, which expanded the types of queries that the agent could handle. And we ensured that we implemented a pattern which Mercian could use for rapid development of generative AI topics in the future. We then did multi-topic coverage, so employees could ask about HR, governance, finance, and many other topics all in one place. And on top of the end of that, we did a large amount of testing. So what did that testing look like? The reason that we did that was to ensure that the generative responses were trusted and reliable. So multiple scenarios were evaluated to prevent errors or inconsistencies. And that also included UAT windows, all the way up to pre-production. And that was just to ensure the implementation of the Copilot agent was verified and validated by end users before hitting production. So what was the impact of this? Well, we ended up getting those instant responses that were needed. Employees got their answers in real time, reducing the frustration. We got high operational efficiency. So admin teams were freed up of those repetitive queries, allowing them to focus on strategic tasks. Process satisfaction, reliable, fast, consistent answers, improving the morale overall. And we got the data insights that were needed. So Mercian are now able to gain visibility into those recurring questions and knowledge gaps and those topics which aren't being used, just enabling that continuous improvement in strategic decision making to nurture the Copilot agent. So by implementing a Copilot agent powered by generative AI, Mercian not only solved their internal communication issue, but also unlocked operational efficiency. They improved employee satisfaction, gained insights that would shape the future of internal strategies, and what started as a pain point for many organizations, Mercian turned into a strategic advantage for their organization. I'm now going to move on to some custom copilots, which you might be applicable in your organization. So on the screen, I've got 6 different agents, from customer service to sales and marketing. I want you to think about how these agents could actually work inside of your organization. I'm going to focus in on the IT agent, as that's what my background is and I find it easiest to speak about. But let's talk about an agent where everyone has this scenario of onboarding. So how amazing would it be to have an agent that does all of that onboarding for you? It requests the laptop that needs to be provided to the user. It provides all of the access to the different systems. It puts them into the security groups. But also all of the additional functionality that IT agent could have as well. So a common issue that comes up is resetting of passwords. So think about operations that would occur, resetting of the password. Textual guidance, such as how do I connect to that VPN? And finally, raising requests of how do I update the specification of my laptop? You can move all of those operations to an agent that is IT focused. Some common connectors that people might be aware of is Azure or Entra, which allows you to do identity and access management, Jira and ServiceNow for ticket and incident management, SharePoint and Dropbox, so file access and collaboration, Azure DevOps and GitHub for those pro-code developers, and Microsoft Teams for notifications, chat-based support, and collaboration. And this is just the start. So Copilot agents can actually integrate with hundreds. I think there's around 1,500 different connectors at the moment that can be used, making them highly adaptable for your existing environment. On top of that, you can also implement your own custom connectors to operate with Copilot agents. So as you think about your organization and which departments could benefit most from a Copilot agent, think about where you could find instant, reliable AI-driven support, which would unlock time, efficiency, and satisfaction for your employees. So just on that note, I just want to talk about maximizing adoption of what you should do in this scenario. So what we did with Mercian is we originally started small with the scope of what we were trying to achieve. If you try to do too much at once, it can result in a high complexity project, which might omit those quick wins that you could gain. You want to get that user and stakeholder input very early into this project or engagement. It just allows users to come along for the journey and ensure that the Copilot agent is actually being delivered for the users and not pushed upon users. When deployment does occur and users begin to use your agent, don't stop. You need to nurture your agent and understand the analytics surrounding that agent. Find those topics which are having real success, and also those topics that need to be adapted a little bit further to gain that success. and ensure that any users that are involved as part of the Copilot agent can champion that agent for your organization to help drive the adoption and reduce friction as you bring it in. So with all of that knowledge, I'm now going to pass you over to Steph, who's going to delve into the Mercian experience a little bit further.
Great. Thank you very much, Michael, for that brilliant overview and walkthrough of the solution. It really brought Mercian's journey, kindly shared by Dave, to life and showed just how Copilot is genuinely making a tangible impact within the trust. So before we move on to our sort of in conversation with section of the webinar, I just wanted to take a moment to reflect on why this whole story matters to me personally. So at Marra, we've been working closely with Mercian Trust to explore how AI can genuinely support, not just automate, the work of educators, administrators, and digital leaders. This isn't about deploying shiny technology for the sake of it or riding the wave of AI. It's about solving real problems, improving user experience, and freeing up time for the things that matter most. And as someone who led the delivery of the Copilot agent for Mercian, I've seen firsthand how powerful this collaboration has been, from user testing and governance to ensuring the solution fits the people it's designed for. And this has been a truly human-centered approach to AI, as Dave touched upon earlier in his story. It truly has been a pleasure to be part of. So Dave, Daniel, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing insight into your journey so far. I'm really excited about having this conversation with you both. So I'll get straight into the questions. And my first question is really for yourself, Daniel. And could you describe how the implementation of a Copilot agent in partnership with Marra has contributed to the upskilling of your teams, specifically in relation to enhancing technical capabilities and strengthening consultancy skills across the organization?
Sure. Thank you, Steph. Just to introduce myself, I'm Dan. I'm a UX designer at the Mercian Trust, and I worked alongside Marra during the development and the stakeholder engagement, and I'm now involved in the continuous development and adoption of Sequoia, and that's what we've called our Copilot agent on Sequoia. In terms of our technical upskilling, so we joined the Microsoft ecosystem in around 2022. I think it's really with this project and future projects where we've moved into the Power Platforms aspect of Microsoft, and that's particularly with Copilot Studio here, but also with Power Automate and more recently with Power Apps as well, that we've really upskilled and kind of leveled up what we're doing with the Microsoft ecosystem with more modern and more powerful opportunities for our users. In terms of technical upskilling, I think working alongside Marra, who have a lot of experience in this area, was very beneficial. We did several technical handover sessions and process handover sessions where Marra were very happy to answer questions and share expertise, and that involved suggestions such as, in the future, how to make sure that sources are created in a Gen AI friendly way, how to make sure topics that are created are thoroughly tested, so that when you put them in front of all of your users in the production environment, they work as intended. It also involved really important advice and steps like separating our development of our Copilot agent into different environments, so that when you're developing or testing or putting it into production, it's been quality assured at every step. And I think that's it on the technical side. On the consultancy side, I think we also benefited a lot. First of all, within our departments, where we went through a lot of different stakeholder engagement sessions and kind of taught members of staff within our HR, finance, and governance departments how to kind of create relevant sources, how to participate in the testing of the agent, and kind of different methods for stakeholder engagement. We used tools such as Miro to create Miro boards and kind of theme different functional areas of what we were trying to build. And I think that really sort of helped within our departments to provide those new skills. We also developed processes for query analytics so that all of the questions that come in through Sequoia and also through other channels can sort of form this body of knowledge for the continuous improvement of Sequoia, and to help with prioritizing within the departments. And in terms of prioritization, another thing we set up was our change process control, which is just as we discover new priorities for developing Sequoia, it involves senior leaders within the departments and also subject matter experts, and we just make sure that it's very department and user driven. Another benefit would also be for our end users, our teaching and associate staff, who I think have gained a lot of knowledge about how to properly use an AI tool, how to ask it appropriate questions and make use of the answers.
Wonderful. Thank you, Daniel. And fantastic, really fantastic, actually, to hear you've significantly advanced your technical capabilities in Power Platform, whilst actually also embedding robust sort of consultancy practices to improve that stakeholder engagement, change control, and the AI readiness for your organization. Thank you. So moving on to the next question, which is actually for both of you, Dave and Daniel. How did you approach testing and feedback loops to ensure that the Copilot agent was genuinely helpful and intuitive for staff?
So if I go for that one, during the development, we went through several UAT sprints, and that means user acceptance testing, where we gave users access to demo versions of Sequoia and kind of got their feedback. During the first UAT sprint, we focused on making sure that the different kind of pathways that you could go down all functioned as intended, and sort of that technically Sequoia had been built out correctly. We got a lot of really helpful feedback from our users in that sprint. And then in our second sprint, we focused more on what the satisfaction score and the resolution rate was when users used Sequoia. We had a larger testing group, and just to give some figures on how that went, over 10 days of UAT, Marra completed 340 functional tests to make sure that topics worked as intended. During 100 UAT sessions, we found a 70.6 resolution rate and a final user satisfaction score of 4.5 out of 5. Which we were very happy with and put us in a strong place to launch to the whole Mercian Trust. In terms of feedback loops, one major thing recently that we've collaborated with Marra to create is what we've called the Sequoia Suggestion Hub, and that's a Power application that lets users in the interface of Sequoia, if they notice that something was maybe missing or could be improved, they're able to very quickly suggest that, and it sort of feeds into somewhere that we can manage that, provide them with feedback, and kind of implement user-driven changes to Sequoia, which is really important for the continuous development.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I mean, achieving a 70.6% resolution rate and a 4.5 out of 5 satisfaction score is a fantastic result. And also launching, the Suggestion Hub Power App, as you mentioned, to support user-driven improvements really underpins actually the sentiment of, continuous evolution and improvement across your organization. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, Dave, one for you. So reflecting on the scale of the project, what were some of the key challenges and how has it impacted your organization? I guess particularly in terms of staff morale, business value, and overall contribution.
I think to start with, it's probably fair to say that Sequoia's been one of our most ambitious digital initiatives that we've undertaken at the Mercian Trust. As a Copilot agent supporting our colleagues' access central services, we really thought about not only the technical innovation that we needed support, and Marra have been fantastic in that sense, but also the cultural alignments and the buy-in across each of our departments and how important that was. I think one of the key challenges was probably establishing a robust communication plan. We had multiple stakeholders and evolving requirements, and so clarity and consistency across that was critical. We learned that communication wasn't just about updates, and it was about creating a shared understanding of the process and what the intended outcome and impact was going to be. We found that especially true when onboarding staff to Sequoia, and think across the UAT, and then setting the expectations around its role and how it would look and feel as a first point of contact for departmental queries. And we've got to be open and honest, and we didn't always get that part of the process right, but we've learned at every step. I think another challenge was navigating our internal knowledge sources. I think it was interesting listening to Dan's response about the consultancy work that we did and how Marra have supported us. We needed to understand what our knowledge sources, what they contain, but then we needed to think about what they needed to look and feel like to support Sequoia and to support the high quality responses that we wanted from our Copilot agents. And so we had that understanding of how Sequoia's effectiveness really depended on the quality and the accessibility of the data it can draw from. Therefore, we went through a process where we had to audit and streamline our documentation. We had to create clarity in the escalation pathways and really ensure that Sequoia could create accurate and context-aware responses. This really required close collaboration between the operational leads, between Daniel as our project lead, and obviously Marra, who had the technical expertise in the field as well. I think despite these hurdles, I think the impact has been really positive. Staff use has increased, and colleagues have, as Dan said, through some of the feedback we've had, feel supported and empowered. And I think recognise that as a company, we're really forward thinking in our understanding of how we can support our colleagues become more efficient and give some time back to them in the roles that they do. The launch was met with general enthusiasm, and the feedback from the induction leads and operational briefings has really highlighted how Sequoia has started to and has the potential to further increase access to the information that our staff want and need for their roles. I think from a business value perspective, Sequoia is already delivering. From each of the queries we identified through our department leads, for every query we received, that was probably about around a 10-minute turnaround of working time. So in our 2-week UAT, the last UAT session we had 100 responses, which actually equates to around 16 or 17 hours saved in those 2 weeks, just in that really small time frame, which is huge for our highly skilled central services teams in finance, HR and governance to be able to apply that time to their roles in other ways that actually they can use their expertise and not just trawl through sort of policy responses. I think it's also really reinforced our commitment to innovation and continuous improvement, and doing so with the people and our people at heart, and what impact that's going to have on their daily roles. I think that's something that's really important, that we keep talking. We're not trying to use technology because it's available. We're trying to use technology because it will make a difference in how our people work across their roles, across our trust. I think it's clear that Sequoia has become more than just a tool. It is that symbol of digital transformation. I think it's really underpinned what we're trying to do with regards to unifying teams, streamlining operations, and really elevate a culture across our trust where we can work more efficiently if we can really engage with the technology that's available and make sure that we use it with a purpose in mind at the start.
Thank you. It's incredible to hear that this has become somewhat of a symbol of your digital transformation at Mercian Trust by delivering real business value through improved service delivery, stronger communication and better access to knowledge, while unifying teams and embedding that culture of innovation. Some truly inspiring stuff there, Dave. Thank you. Daniel, last question for you, and then one final one for yourself, Dave. Could you share how the launch and overall approach have been shaped, particularly around promotional material, communications, access, and the journey of growing understanding and engagement with the content?
Sure. So I guess Once we'd developed Sequoia, we'd developed a platform that would streamline how our staff, both teaching and associate, received information from our central services. It would be faster, and it would also reduce the admin burden within our central services. So when you had a more complex query, you'd get better access to those experts. I think we're now on an adoption journey to turn this into our main channel that's used in most situations. We've been a bit careful not to switch everything else off just yet. We want to make sure that users have time to train to understand how to use Sequoia and make their suggestions on how to improve it as well. In terms of the actual launch and the materials we created for that launch, we created a user guide that involved information about the escalation routes. So if you wanted access to department experts, how to get that access, about the help topic that informed you on what topics were available within Sequoia, and sort of how to get the best out of using a Copilot agent, and sort of how to get more support if that's needed as well, just around how you're using Sequoia if you're facing any difficulties. We also created a short promotional video with a couple of example queries being answered, one for each department. And we sort of made all of this available to our staff during the launch. It was launched in September, and just to give some sense of how that's going, it's the overall satisfaction score since launch is currently 4.8 out of 5. It's a bit difficult to tell you about the number of engagements since launch, because when you launch, you get a high number of what are called unengaged sessions. But if I just focus on the last 2 weeks, we've had about 171 sessions in the last 2 weeks. And I think that kind of shows the level of engagement. I would say that the suggestion hub that we've launched recently will really drive Sequoia forward and kind of continue this idea of the ongoing development being user-driven and trying to meet the needs of our different schools and staff. And I guess a couple of challenges during the launch. One of them was just help training people's understanding of how to use adjacent products as well. We've also launched Microsoft 365 Copilot for use in our schools, and I think that's a slightly different tool, whereas Sequoia has specific specialist knowledge about what's available within our departments. Microsoft 365 is a bit more broad and general, and just training our staff on understanding that difference and making the most of both tools. Yeah, I think that's a good kind of overview of how we prepared for the launch and then carried it out.
Perfect. That's a really great insight into your launch strategy there, Daniel, focusing on the voluntary adoption by building that user confidence through training and feedback, with the clear messaging like the promotional videos and user guides. Sounds like a great way to approach that for sure. Okay, on to our final question. And as mentioned, this one is for yourself, Dave. What advice would you give to other organizations looking to implement or build Copilot agents?
I think it's really important to say that implementing a Copilot agent really has been a transformative journey that's allowed us to think about and blend technology, people and partnerships. My advice to organization is to begin with clarity, identify a real high impact problem that a Copilot agent could solve. At Mercian, we've really seen its success by focusing on practical use cases that improve access to our central services for our people, and that then leads to a reduction in repetitive and administrative tasks throughout their roles. But it also adds value to our people who are requesting access to information. I think it's really important, I think it's been mentioned previously, is to start small but think big. Think about how you could pilot initiatives and what UAT allows you to validate assumptions and gather feedback, because that allows you to build momentum. Ensure that you've got a really robust feedback loop and involve the end users early. Get the voice of the people and engage with as many different stakeholders as you can. Their insights really do help shape the agent's usefulness and adoption. I think partnerships are really key. Collaborating with trusted providers like Microsoft and Marra has really enabled us to leverage their expertise in AI, in cloud infrastructure, but also within change management. These relationships have really helped us avoid common pitfalls, but also allowed us to accelerate our deployment of Sequoia into our workforce. I think it's really important to also learn from others, whether they're through formal partnerships like I've just mentioned, or also through informal communities of practice, because these insights tend to be really invaluable, learning from what other people's wins and other people's barriers that they've come up against. We've benefited from sharing resources and case studies from others, but also thinking about strategic planning, which helped us to align our goals and to refine our approach. I think it's also important to not underestimate the human side of change. That Copilot agents are not just tools, they become digital colleagues. And so invest in that user enablement, in the training and the communication, and build a understanding and a community of practice to support that adoption and foster that innovation to ensure that you get the most value out of your Copilot agent. I think to finish, I'd say be really intentional about your governance and your responsible use of AI. Define what clear user guidelines that you want and make sure that their data is safeguarded and it aligns with your organizational values. We have found that our most successful implementations are those that have balanced innovation, but have also included a high level of trust and our user trust in our ability to control the security of our data and the use of our data. And that's really underpinned all the work that we've done in and around AI.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dave. It really sounds like your journey has been all around blending technology, people, and partnerships, with a big focus on the human side of change, whether that's through enablement, collaboration, and as you mentioned, responsible AI. So huge thank you to Dave and Daniel for sharing your thoughts and opinions on your journey into AI. That concludes this section of the webinar. So I'd now like to shift gears a little bit and take a look at what's coming next in the world of AI. We'll explore how organizations can prepare for what's ahead and how to build on the momentum we've seen today. So Michael, over to you.
Awesome, thanks, Steph. I'll keep this quite brief. There's three main points that I wanted to discuss today: multi-agent orchestration, some new models, and generative analytics. So let's start with multi-agent orchestration. So Copilot Studio, as we know it, is beginning to evolve from traditional single agent usage to multi-agent orchestration. So what does this mean? It means that agents can begin to coordinate with one another, delegate out work, and collaborate across systems to tackle complex workflows. So there's a generative twist known as generative orchestration, and this uses AI to reason dynamically. What does this enable? So agents can now decide which topics, tools, other agents, or knowledge it needs access to actually invoke and get a result off the queries that are coming through to those agents. It then synthesizes a response across all of the different agents, and it's not just static routing. So it's real-time compositional thinking. Multi-agent orchestration gives you an AI team, essentially. It is generative orchestration that gives them the brain power to think, choose, and compose together. Expect agents that are not only modular, but also autonomously smart in how they orchestrate themselves. So in the examples that I showed before with the 6 agents, and they all acted individually or alone. If we come back to the example I gave about an onboarding experience where you have to set up new laptops, etc., think about an onboarding agent instead, and think about how this agent could delegate all of those smaller tasks out to the other agents. So think about if I use an orchestrate agent, which then consumes each of those agents, A customer service agent would log a ticket to say the details of the request. A finance agent might go off and set up BACS payments and financial information. The IT agent can go request any information, any equipment that the user needs for their role, and it sets them up in them security groups as well. So that's an example of how 3 agents actually are consumed by 1 agent for onboarding. And that's the place that we're moving to as part of multi-agent orchestration. This allows you to essentially streamline those processes with a single entry point, and that's out of the box capability. So there's no modification or extension needed to turn on multi-agent orchestration. The next thing's models. So models in AI are constantly evolving, and Microsoft Copilot is making sure that it's keeping up with those models that can be consumed. Currently, we're using GPT-4o, and there's variations of the GPT-4 model. GPT-5 is in preview and experimental. And you might have actually noticed that there's external models coming into the fold, such as Anthropic's Claude models, which are used for problem solving and technical queries at the forefront. So from the 27th of October, the GPT-4o model will be retired and 4.1 will become the default model going forward. This model is better used for reasoning. So think about those situations where you are using generative AI. That model should see a benefit to you. The next one that I want to touch on is generative review. So at the time that we did the project alongside with Mercian, this feature did not exist. And what was the impact of that? It meant that we had to search through a lot of session information and conversation history to understand what generative AI was saying. Generative review is essentially bringing that functionality into the Copilot agent, and it allows it to self-measure its own responses, allowing it to understand when knowledge sources aren't quite solving the topic or the questions that are being answered. And allows the organization to adapt and modify those sources where needed to. So that allows you to sift through that information with less time and also understand the breakdown of your Gen AI a lot quicker, creating impactful changes overall for you and your organization. After that, I'm just going to pass back over to Steph, who's going to wrap this conversation up, I think.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for sharing a glimpse into the future of AI, Michael. It sounds like an incredibly exciting future ahead of us. So thank you for listening, everyone. And before we close today, let's just do a quick wrap up of today's session. So if today's session has sparked ideas or questions, and you'd like to chat about how Copilot Studio or Power Platform could support your organization, please don't hesitate to get in touch. We'd love to continue the conversation. So just to recap, in today's session, we've taken you through the full story of how AI is being put into action at Mercian Trust. We started with the exploration of Mercian's journey and how they've adopted Power Platform and integrated Copilot into their organization to solve real challenges and improve operational efficiency. We had a technical insight into Copilot and what we did during this engagement, and we wrapped up with a conversation and discussing, the implementation of the Copilot agent with Dave and Daniel, diving into the impact, lessons learned, and then obviously touched on what's next in the future of AI. So before we finish, I really just want to take a moment to thank all of today's speakers. So Michael, Dave, and Daniel, thank you for sharing your insights and experiences. It's been brilliant to hear how AI and Copilot are already making a difference at Mercian Trust. And finally, a huge thanks to all of you for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to host this session and share the story of how AI is being put into action at Mercian Trust. We hope you found the insights useful and inspiring, and that it sparked ideas for how Copilot Studio and Power Platform could support your own organization. As we've seen today, AI isn't just a future concept. It's already here. It's transforming how organizations work, learn, and lead. The real power of AI lies not only in the technology itself, but in how we choose to apply it with purpose, empathy, and a clear understanding of the people it's designed to support. So whether you're just starting your journey or already deep into delivery, keep asking the right questions, keep involving your users, and keep building with impact and people in mind. Our next webinar will take place in early 2026 and we'll be in touch with your invite, so please do watch this space. Thanks again for joining us and enjoy the rest of your day.